Hey, Philip.
Hey.
Just wanted to warn you. I don't know if you've noticed, but Paycom is extremely slow for some reason. Like when I'm looking at those applications.
Yeah, I have seen that, but I just assumed it was my computer.
Well, I was kind of thinking that myself, but I don't think so because everything else on my computer is working fine.
Well, hopefully they speed up a little bit by 20 minutes from now.
Okay.
Now I am having trouble muting folks. Oh, here we go. Okay, if everyone can hear me, and I think you all can, feel free to open the chat box and type your full name so that we have a sense of who is here and we can take roll at the end of this whole presentation. If I don't see any new names on there, then I'm going to worry that nobody can hear me. Can everyone see the chat window? Can anyone see the chat? I'm going to mute. Everyone is unmuted. Okay, I see Jay Lee. Okay, so how you find the chat window is you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, scroll over that area, and you should see an option to open a chat window. Okay, let's go ahead and get started today. I appreciate everyone joining this training. It is something that I consider a really great opportunity for the organization to consider performance and productivity, and to think about how you want to challenge your direct reports, your employees. So this first thing I'd like to do is, we've already taken roll. If you have not, and you're just now logging in, if you've not typed in your name to the chat box to confirm that you are indeed in attendance, please do so. The second thing I want to do is I want to make sure that everyone has a second window open on their client-side Paycom. If you would please open an internet window and open to your client-side home screen and navigate from there with me to Performance and Compensation Management. From Performance and Compensation Management, you're going to select Goal Management and have this window handy on one of your screens or behind the presentation window. And because at the end or toward the middle of this presentation, we'll have an exercise in Paycom in your goal management dashboard. As Lori said, it is running, it appears to be running a little slowly today. That is Paycom. Okay, so let's dig in. I have asked everyone to join this training today, importantly because there have been some very big changes to performance management here at Catholic Charities of Galveston, Houston. And why in the world did we want to make changes to an already complex system and process? I'm sure many of you are thinking that. Well, because our documentation was not so great over the last two performance periods. We had a number of challenges in terms of the kinds of goals that were being created. We want to make sure that goals are useful for employees. And we wanted to make sure that there's a real sense of purpose in this exercise. It's not merely to say, oh, as an organization, we're doing performance management. There is a real purpose behind performance management, and it is a wonderful opportunity to sit down with your direct reports and to check in with them and to drive the kinds of behaviors and actions that you need them to perform in order to get your programs to the finish line at the end of every fiscal year or whatever the target is. And so part of that is documentation. We want to know how employees are doing, for better or for worse. If you don't have documentation, good and bad, or tough employment decisions are difficult to back up. So documentation is extremely important. The second piece is better data management. Heretofore, we have had goals with titles that are all over the map. I could print out a report at the end of each performance period, and probably we would have a range of as many as 500 different goal types in the system. That makes it very difficult for us to pull any useful data analyses from all of that vast data. This is a great area for Catholic Charities to have a sense of visibility over what's happening in the organization, where the organization is excelling, where its challenges are, its weak spots. Without documentation, without good data, useful data, it is very difficult to have organizational visibility. And then finally, with the lack of structure over the last couple of years in the goal component of the performance appraisal in particular, we were not sure if the goals that were being created by managers were aligned with our mission, vision, and values. And it is really important to know that there is a mission and vision and values here at Catholic Charities. We have a very clear vision and strategy for each of the programs, and I would be happy to send you documentation on that. If you have not seen that, feel free to ask your supervisors or to email me separately, and I will send it to you. But it is really great to know where you're going so that you can ascertain if the actions and behaviors of your direct reports are useful and aligned. So what are the changes? The first change is anniversary reviews. We are now, as a direct answer to employees' demand for timelier feedback on their productivity and performance, as well as timelier compensation consideration, we are now implementing in an employee's first year of employment. At the end of that first year, an anniversary appraisal. In that employee's second performance period, they will be rolled into the annual performance appraisal period. So it is only in their first year that they will receive an anniversary review. This should not represent any extra work, because the idea behind management here is that you are setting clear expectations for all of your direct reports at the beginning of their employment. So really this is merely a matter of codifying that and documenting that in Paycom directly inside of the employee's records, so that they have a sense of what your expectations are for them, and it's very clear. And so there are no questions at the end of the year whether someone performed at expectation level or below it, or excelled and deserved either promotion or better compensation. The second change is extremely important as well. So I spoke about the need for better structure and more direction in our goals, and I will get into these goal clusters here in a couple of minutes for you. But this presentation, we will cover methodology and process for the new goal clusters, as well as, I hope your takeaway at the end of this presentation is, this is a great opportunity. You have the opportunity as a supervisor to help inspire better work, to help give value back to your direct report. In their day-to-day work, it is very easy to feel, oh gosh, I don't even know why I'm doing some of these things. I don't even know why I'm doing some of this process. And if you sit down with your employees and you explain the why behind things and the expectations in a clear way that they understand why what you're asking them to do is relevant, I guarantee you'll get better work and you'll get a better return on that time investment. Okay, so the third piece here is that heretofore we have been entering goals for your employees at the end of the performance period. This is very unintuitive and it should not be that way. So all of you who are on this call are here because you have direct reports who need goals entered, whether they are getting an anniversary appraisal, and we'll go over the timeline for that in a minute, or if they're in the regular annual cycle. Folks in the annual cycle should receive their goals before June, at the end of the performance period. They should receive them as soon as possible, as soon as you close out the old period, so that it is documented in their Paycom what is expected of them, and they cannot say to you at the end of the year, well, I had no idea what the expectation was. It's so important to have this documentation. Okay, so let's get into the, let me stop actually and say, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in this Zoom group chat window, and I will look at those as we zoom through this presentation. If I feel that your question is a little too complicated to get into in our 40-minute session, and we are on a real tight schedule here, then I will reach out to you to schedule an appointment, a one-on-one meeting, so that we can clarify and we can dig in. And I'm very happy as well to workshop your goals with each of you, so that you're just optimizing this great opportunity to build goals that are meaningful to your employees. Okay, so the timeline. All right, so many of you know already that the annual performance appraisal period is from June to June. Your direct report should self-assess, and you as the manager should assess your employees' performance by the end of August every single year. And by the end of September, you should have entered the new goals for the next period. And this is relevant for all employees. The interim dialogue. This may actually go away, so I don't want to get into that right now. But so we'll skip over that and let's work into the anniversary appraisal. The anniversary appraisal, as I mentioned earlier, will take place at the end of the first year of employment for new employees. This is the only time that anyone will get an anniversary appraisal. The due date for an anniversary appraisal is at the end of the month following the month of hire. So if they were hired in November of 2018, they should have received their performance appraisal at the beginning of November of 2019, and you should have reviewed them by the end of December of 2019. I see that I've got a typo here. This should say, oh no, actually that's not a typo. I'm just using different dates in my verbal versus my PowerPoint presentation. So I understand that that may seem a little confusing, so feel free to reach back out to me separately or in the chat window. By the end of the month following the final approval of the first review, new goals should be entered into the goal management or the goal group for your employee for the next performance period. So that employee understands from then on what is expected of them in that period. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so what are these goal clusters that we were talking about a minute ago? They're essentially 6 goal titles. I want to make sure that all of you understand that the goals that you give to your employees are inherent to their job. I'm not telling you what kinds of goals to create for them. The fact of the matter is you will have goals in your mind, or you will have given goals, all of which can nestle under one of these categories or one of these clusters. So this is merely a title. And so let me give you some data science behind this. So the main reason why I'm having trouble with the data at the end of every performance period is because we've had goals with different titles, very arbitrary titles all across the agency, and they are literally all over the board. I could pull a report, and as I said earlier, we might have 500 or more different goal titles with ratings. And so at the end of the year, what I want to be able to do is say to senior managers, every program in the agency is performing well or poorly in each of these strategic areas. I will absolutely give you some examples of each of these goal clusters and what goals might fit into that in a minute. And let me go through what these mean first. Okay, so the first goal here, or goal cluster here, is job knowledge and effectiveness. This is the sort of baseline. This is what each employee at the agency needs to do, or how they need to contribute to keep their job and to maintain and continue the flow of business of each of your departments. Let's see. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you have a direct report who has some challenges of performance in the work that they're doing that it relates to their job descriptions. So any of those requirements or duties or tasks in the job descriptions that they're having challenges in, or that they're excelling in, or that you want to challenge them to do better because you sense that they have a skill set that would incline them to do better or to drive a particular special project. This is the area that you would put that kind of goal in. The next one is SME and skills development. SME stands for subject matter expertise and skills development. What we're looking for in this area is, at the very least, every employee across the agency has some required training. You see the monthly training calendar that goes out across the agency every single month. If it says it is a mandatory training, as supervisors, we need you to really drive that part of each employee's performance. Each employee should be challenged to develop skills and subject matter expertise that enhances your overall program's effectiveness and your services to your clients. So again, I'll give you some examples of that in a minute. So initiative and collaboration. This is a somewhat aspirational category, in that you can get creative here. This is an area where if you have a direct report who shows particular skill or interest in developing new kinds of systems or processes or procedures that improve the efficiency of your program, or services to clients. If you're going to task an employee with a special project in that area, this would be the cluster to use as the goal title for that. I'll give you an example of that in a minute too. Community and program development is the next cluster. This is important for a lot of the client-facing departments and programs. What we're looking for here is, I'll give you an example. If an employee, for example, is tasked with strengthening ties with a community, for example, down at Mamie George, we have seen in the past goals that were given to employees there who are responsible for building interest in the community, in the offerings and services of Mamie George. And part of what that employee or those employees were tasked with was joining and getting involved in community organizations in order to raise awareness of Mamie George. And so this would be a great area to input that kind of goal. If you're asking an employee to go out and do special projects in the community, or to do special projects to broaden a service or the scope of a service offering here at Catholic Charities, it would go in this area. You would codify that goal under community and program development. Compliance and reporting. This is a sort of less exciting goal cluster because it's, you know, it's a little bit more of a work type category. So here, many of the programs, in fact, I would say all the programs, are driven by funding requirements in many cases, governmental requirements, or archdiocese requirements. And so there are lots and lots of compliance areas. And if you're having, if you have a group of employees where compliance and reporting is a particular stress area or an important area of productivity and performance, you would create goals that would fall in this cluster. And then finally, we have agency strategic goal achievement. This, I think, is one of the most exciting ones. I think there are a number of special projects that Cynthia has given to Nyla. I was working with Nyla yesterday. And so as she's going about distilling these special projects into actions and behaviors to her direct reports, a lot of those special projects can fall under agency strategic goal achievement. And so when you're thinking about, well, what goal title or what goal cluster is most appropriate for me to put this goal in, think about how it is perceived by your direct report. So in this example that I just gave you of a special project that that would go to one of the programs, you could put it under job knowledge and effectiveness. Now, if it's a special project, maybe that's not the most effective area to put it in. You could put it under initiative and collaboration. If it has something to do that directly ties into the agency's strategic goals or special projects here at the agency, I think it's more inspiring to your direct reports in that cluster. And so I'm encouraging you to think very strongly about the perception of the tasks that you're giving your direct reports and which of these clusters will help you get the best result. So you have some latitude. I'm not actually going to give you guys goals. What we're doing here by giving you goal clusters and goal titles is some structure so that we can, one, pull data at the end of the performance period that's useful, and two, that you can find a way to make these goals most meaningful for your direct reports. At the end of the year, or at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the tasks that are given to each of the employees here at Catholic Charities are meaningful to your direct reports. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to do a quick overview of this slide. I think it's important always to remember that our goals should be SMART. I know a lot of you know this already, but it is always helpful to be reminded. Specific is what the S stands for. Measurable. If your goal is not measurable, it will be very hard to make that goal meaningful to the employee, and it may be rendered then unproductive. attainable. If your goal is unrealistic and it is not attainable or unfeasible, then you will not find that your employee is inspired by that goal, and you probably won't get the results that you're looking for. R has changed from realistic to relevant, and this is a really important change, I think, because you shouldn't be asking employees to do things that are far out of the scope of what they understand their job to be. So there are two pieces there. You want to make sure that they understand the why behind each of the goals that you're giving them. That helps make the goal relevant. And then you also want to make sure that it falls within their skill set. You want to make sure that it's relevant to your department goals. People want to know that they're contributing to their program's overall goals and the program visions. Okay? And time-oriented. A metric for many goals can be time. Have you completed this project, this special project, within the given time frame? Okay, so I want to go back a little bit to this goal cluster slide, and I want to encourage you all to go back to the invitation that I sent. I just about 10 minutes ago sent out a document where I elaborate on what these goal clusters mean. The first page is the goal clusters with a little bit of guidance on how you use them. The second page is elaboration on what these goal clusters mean, how you might, as a supervisor, create goals that work with within these structures. And it even gives you some verbiage for how you might start sentences for goals in these areas. So let me give you an example of, so Jaylee, you were asking about initiative and collaboration, or what kinds of goals might fall in these clusters. And so I'll give you an example for initiative and collaboration at Cabrini, or community and program development, actually. So you at Cabrini, in order to build your client base, you all give charlas, and you give multiple charlas every month. And this is an important way of developing your business, your so-called business, or your client base. Well, let's see, Okay, it looks like we have longer than 40 minutes because we're approaching our 40-minute deadline here. Okay, so an example of this community and program development is if at those charlas, if you have an employee who shows a particular affinity to measuring the effectiveness of those charlas, and what I mean by that is, do you evaluate those charlas and to understand how folks in the audience perceive the speaker, how effective it is in terms of how many of those attendees are converted into clients. And if you do not measure that, then maybe finding a way to give a special project to one of your employees to develop such a program. I find that a really great and exciting project. And you might put that under community and program development. So how that goal would look, you would say something like, develop an evaluation system for our charlas so that we can understand the math around how many charlas we need to host per month in order to convert 15 of those overall attendees into clients. So we have 15 new cases in a given month. So understanding overall what you as a department need to bring in per month, and then doing the math out from there, and then creating goals for your employees that are grounded in that math. And Jaylee, I can work with you. Actually, I think what's going to happen at Cabrini is we will work to standardize some of the goals, and I can get with you on the side for that. I can give you an example of agency strategic goal achievement as well. If you have supervisors underneath you who are responsible for driving retention, retention is a strategic goal area. Increasing retention is a strategic goal area at Catholic Charities, and we're doing a number of things to enhance that. This is a perfect example of that. Retention is directly correlated with how effective performance management is at organizations. So you can give to each of your supervisors a goal of increasing your retention. If over the last year your turnover rate was 20% and you want to get that down to 15% or to 10% within a given performance period, then you might create a goal for your supervisors accordingly, and you might put it under agency strategic goal achievement. Similarly, job knowledge and effectiveness, you can get strategic there, but it's also one of those areas where, say, someone is not on time on their timekeeping every week, and this does cost managers more time. You have to follow up. That is problematic, and you need your employees to do better. Then you might put a goal related to timekeeping under job knowledge and effectiveness. Okay, so I want to get from here into how you actually do the goal entry. So I asked you all to open up a window for goal management. And so let's look at that. On my screen here, you'll see far and away more than you'll see in your windows or in your dashboards, because I have access to the overall agency. But what I want you to do from here is, so you've gone to your talent management, you've selected performance and compensation management. From there you go to goal management, and it brings you to this screen. And all of the goal groups, except for those that have been standardized for all of the youth care workers at St. Michael's, for example, of all of your direct reports, should show up in your goal group dashboard. And then from here, you would select add or edit goals. And so I'll just, as an example, select here. So see what we've got here is a number of old goal titles, none of which were standardized across the agency. So I could not pull a report that would give me, oh, that's okay, Jay Lee. I couldn't at the end of the year pull a report that gave me any real sense of how the agency might have been doing in what I would say teamwork and professionalism. You might put that as collaboration. So Jay Lee, what you do is you go to performance and compensation management, then you go to goal management. And that brings you to that goal management dashboard. So if you're there already, you should see your direct reports in that dashboard. Okay, so the other piece that I actually I don't have a slide for this, but I think it's very important as I'm looking at this to remember that we have 3 components to the performance appraisals. One is the goal management. The second piece is competencies, and then third piece is open questions. In the second piece are competencies, and at the line level, we have 6 competencies that all employees see. Okay, I will get back to you, Natalie, on that, but yes, I can certainly provide reporting on turnover and retention as needed. So what we've got here is something that I would say overlaps with the competency areas. And so when you're creating goals, remember that feel free to go look at the competencies and see what is already there. But something like teamwork and professionalism, these are more behavioral, attitudinal, and they're less about the actions. And so for your goals, you want to get to the actions that lead you to the results, okay? So that's a really important distinction. So when you're thinking about something that's a little bit more subjective or attitudinal, that would fall under the competencies area. And those are things that can get a little bit more abstract. But when you're thinking about goals, you want to be specific, and you want to be directly addressing actions. Okay, so teamwork and professionalism, how we might change this. Maintain the ability to work as a part of a team. collaborate with other coworkers, children, volunteers, and other stakeholders, express professionalism in communicating with clients, coworkers, and other professionals. Okay, so this is really subjective. This is not what I would consider a useful goal. This is a really useful competency. And luckily for all, we have teamwork and professionalism as part of our competencies. When I think of a goal that is teamwork or collaboration oriented, I'm thinking of is your direct report joining other organizations to collaborate and to grow their ability to contribute to the program. So when you're thinking about collaboration internally, you can also look at how, for example, someone at St. Michael's would collaborate with someone at Cabrini to help one of their cases more holistically. Okay, so we probably will wind up changing this goal. And then the other thing that you want to think about is there's nothing measurable here. There's nothing solidly measurable, at least objectively measurable. And so when you're creating a goal under something like collaboration, you want to give some numbers. How many organizations do you want them to join? Or what is think about the result. What's the result that you want from someone who you expect to collaborate with other departments? Is it better client service? Is it some other kind of metric? Do you want them to develop a skill set, for example, in accounting so that they're reducing costs? Think about what your end result is, and then think about what are the actions that get us to that result. So for example, under compliance and reporting, let me give you an example there. So many folks are in ETO every day. And when your direct reports are entering data, if you perform on a weekly or monthly basis any kind of evaluation or audit of those data entries, it is important to track if there are errors, if those errors might materially affect your program's funding or the service to the client. This is a performance area that you would want to track and therefore measure also in their performance appraisals. And so say, for example, if you've done a sampling of 3 records out of 10 that an employee has entered into ETO, if out of those 3 records there are, I don't know, maybe 3 to 10 errors total, then out of the total number of data fields, divide that number by the total number of data fields, and you get a percentage of error. So if the error rate, for example, is 30% for a particular employee's data entry in ETO, and you would like to challenge that employee within a performance period to improve their data entry metrics by, say, 15%, because you find that 15% is an acceptable range of error in ETO. I'm not suggesting that at all, but just throwing out some examples there. Then what you would do is you would create a goal under compliance and reporting that would speak to this goal. You would say, I would like to see a 15% improvement in your data error rate, your data entry error rate in ETO. And then at the end of the year, if you have done those audits in a consistent and regular way, you can say you either met or did not meet this goal objectively. And it is so important to be able to say, I gave you the metrics at the beginning of the year, and you did or you did not meet the goal. The opportunity here is giving clarity to what your expectations are to your employees, and the opportunity and the results for y'all hopefully are super positive, that everyone steps up to the challenges at hand. Okay, so from here, let's, I think I want to take a poll really quickly. And all of you have access to this group chat now. So please let me know if there is anything unclear in this goal entry piece. going to give it 10 more seconds. And if nobody answers, then we'll assume that everything is super clear. Remembering that I'm happy to schedule time with you one-on-one to help you workshop your goals. I am happy to do that. I love doing that. I think it's really exciting. Okay, so let's get back then to the PowerPoint and let's move on to the next component. We have gone through the PAYCOM components already. As I said earlier, the roadmap is you go to, you start at your home page, you go to performance and compensation. Your next option is goal management. And then you can isolate, you can type in the name. If you have a ton of employees, you can type in their name and you can get down to their performance goal group. And then the next step is you add and you edit. When you click on add and edit, let's go back to this other screen, sorry. When you add and you edit, how you update this goal is you click on the blue, teamwork and professionalism. And what we do is we'll change this because we know this needs to change, and we'll have to workshop this with the department leaders later, but we can change this now to initiative and collaboration, okay? And so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to edit this description. This is where you codify or document the goal that you've given to your employee. And this is where you create the metrics for how you're going to measure that employee's performance at the end of the year. They should be very clear in here. So I know that I need to come back to this, so I'm going to go ahead and make a note here. Revisit so that Sergio and Maida and I can work on that later. I'm going to change this date here as well. This metric type feature in PAYCOM is not as useful to us because we use different kinds of metrics than PAYCOM gives us here as options. This is hard-coded. We cannot change that. So what I've been doing is typically I just simply change the metric value or the date to the end of the performance appraisal period, which is 6/30/2020 or 6/30/2021, whatever the period that we're in is. In this case, it's 2020. Okay, and then you hit save, and that is an updated goal. If you need to delete goals, that's something that you'll have to email me about because it's not possible to do that without some back work on my part. But that is okay, that's no problem. I'm happy to jump on that anytime you have a question or concern. If you're going to add new goals, say you've only got 3 goals in a cluster for an old employee, but you want to challenge them a little bit more elaborately this year, and you want to add 4 goals that fit under this, fit within these goal cluster structures, then you would select add goal. You would type in the given goal cluster title. Actually, let me go ahead and just do that. Okay, and then this is okay, and then okay, and so that's saved. And then what happens from here is when you have updated these goals, you let us know, and then we push these goals to the ESSs of your direct reports so that they have access and understand what their expectations are. Okay. Something else that is very exciting, I think, that I want to show you from this, this goal management dashboard here. A large push this year is going to be learning. And PAYCOM has created a new feature here within the goal management dashboard that I think is very exciting. It's about attaching learning requirements to your employees. And this is learning that is relevant or mandatory. So under that SME and skills development, remember when I discussed what should be a standard goal for all of your employees is at the very least, they must complete their mandatory required trainings. These are things that either might be given by your funders through the Archdiocese, the board, internally, or through governmental requirements. You would select Edit Learning. If you scroll all the way over to the end here, Edit Learning. and you would attach a learning course. So this will forever, until they complete this requirement, this will be a glaring red notification in their ESS and Paycom. I think that's really exciting because nobody enjoys those little red bells on their home screens in Paycom. And so I encourage you all to use this feature. So say this, this particular employee or this group of employees, it is required that they complete some compliance training. Let's go ahead and just enter that in. Trauma, for example, Trauma 101. We are a trauma-informed care agency, and so it is important that every employee at all level completes Trauma 101. So we're going to go ahead and make this a requirement for that group of employees or that employee. So you attach the course, and from now on, they're going to be badgered to complete this course. This is a really great feature. I'll have to go in and edit that in a little bit. But, anyway, I think this is a very exciting feature. Okay, so Jaylee, I see your question. Do we need to change all the goal categories in Paycom to match the 6 goal clusters that you're giving us today? Absolutely. So like I said, at the end of the year, I want to be able to pull a report that says how the agency performed in each of these 6 strategic clusters or categories. And so, yes, all of your goal titles should align with these. They should be exactly as these 6 are in this PowerPoint and the document that I sent you all via email. If you have not received that document, please email me and I will send it to you forthwith. Okay. So I want everyone to take a look at your goal management dashboard. This is the area that we were just in. Remember, you get there from your performance and compensation management page. Then you go to goal management. At this page, I would like to look and see who is in here. If you have goal groups for employees who are not your employees or your direct reports, please let me know. Perform an audit real quick and send me a private email separately saying, hey, there's a mistake here. I don't know why I'm showing this employee. They're not even employed here anymore, or any of those. If you see any of those discrepancies, please let me know. Inactive employees, old or incorrect direct reports, missing direct reports. If you don't see a direct report of yours on there, that is extremely important that I update some of these goal groups so that they fit correctly with their appropriate supervisors. Okay, we've already gone through all of that. This is the edit learning. Okay. So the next piece now for all of you is to log into your Paycom and to complete this course so that you get credit for this. The completion code for this course is CCGHPA 2019, as you see below. And actually, I may need to double check that because I think I just changed it. But anyway, start with this code and I will send out an email with the document, the goal management document, as well as I'll reiterate what the completion code is. And please complete your evaluations. If we do not get your evaluations, we have no idea how to improve these trainings. I don't know if I'm glaringly omitting something unless you tell me, and it does not hurt my feelings. I really want to know. So that's it. If you have any questions, again, like I said, send me an email or call me. Thank you very much for your time today.
I think he would be happy if there was another youth in there, but it has to be another youth that's just singing.
Okay, so I've unmuted everyone. If anyone has any commentary now, you're welcome to ask me, or you're also welcome to sign off if you're done. You've got.
Oh, I need the code. Another somebody.
Or was it because he says that like the brothers, and I already talked to Jasmine about it, like, you know, he kind of butts head with her son. Like they team up against him. He feels like they team up against him. But then he talks about how one brother is even mean to the other brother, and he doesn't like to get in the middle because